Welcome to your AI Deep Dive, everybody. Today, we're diving deep into some seriously mind-blowing stuff from Demis Hassabis, the mastermind over at Google DeepMind.
He's a real visionary, that's for sure.
No doubt. And in a recent interview, he dropped some seriously fascinating knowledge bombs about the future of AI.
And this isn't just about, the next generation of chatbots. We're talking about AI on a whole other level.
Absolutely. We're talking AI that understands the world more like we do, through sight, sound, space, the whole nine yards. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's rewind a bit. Hassabis founded DeepMind back in 2010, right?
Yeah, 2010.
Back when AI wasn't exactly the hottest ticket in town, if you know what I mean.
It's true. Back then, hardly anyone was willing to touch AI with a 10-foot pole.
And yet, here comes Hassabis, so convinced that AI is the future that he basically says, forget a salary for the first 2 years of DeepMind.
Now that's dedication.
Talk about putting your money where your mouth is.
Seriously. But you know what's even more impressive? DeepMind's progress has actually been spot on with the 20-year roadmap they mapped out way back when.
Wait, seriously? They're actually on track after all these years.
It's almost unheard of, especially in a field as unpredictable as AI. To lay out a 20-year plan and actually stick to it. That speaks volumes about Hassabis' deep understanding of this field.
It's like they've got a crystal ball over there at DeepMind.
Right. But let's get back to these next-level AI concepts he's been talking about.
Yeah, let's dive into that.
One of the biggest things is that Hassabis is looking beyond language.
Like beyond just chatbots and text generators.
Exactly. He envisions AI that doesn't just understand words, but also perceives and interacts with the world through senses, just like humans do.
That's wild. So how does that even work?
Well, they call this vision project Astra, and it's basically their blueprint for a truly multimodal AI assistant.
Multimodal. Okay, that sounds pretty technical. Break it down for me.
Think about it this way. We experience the world through multiple senses, right? We see, we hear, we interact with objects in space. Astra is being designed to process all of that, which makes it infinitely more sophisticated than a chatbot that just spits out text.
So instead of just spitting out words, it's actually processing and understanding information from the real world.
Exactly. Like, imagine an AI that can watch a whole movie and then perfectly recall every scene, every line of dialogue.
Whoa. We're talking next level here.
Right. And he even mentions something called a million-token-long context. So instead of just remembering a few paragraphs of text, this AI could potentially process and recall an hour-long video.
An hour long. Wow. Just trying to get my head around what that would even look like in practice.
It's mind-blowing, right? The possibilities are endless. It could revolutionize education, documentary filmmaking, even how we interact with our own memories.
It's like we're stepping into a whole new dimension of AI.
We are. It's a whole new ballgame.
So with all these mind-blowing advancements, you'd think we've got AI all figured out, right?
You think so, wouldn't you?
But Hassabis also throws a bit of a curveball into the mix here. He says even with all this progress, there's still some major gaps in what AI can do.
Oh, absolutely. He's not wrong. It's like we've got all these fancy ingredients in the kitchen, but we're still missing a few key ones to complete the recipe.
Okay, so what's missing? What are these key ingredients we're lacking?
He's talking about things like planning and true reasoning, things that are still beyond the grasp of current AI systems.
So even though AI is amazing at, say, facial recognition or generating text, it still struggles with more complex tasks that require real-world understanding.
You got it. AI is great at recognizing patterns, but it hasn't quite mastered the ability to plan and reason like we do. And according to Hassabis, that's a big hurdle we still need to overcome.
So let's unpack this a bit. What exactly does he mean by planning when it comes to AI?
Well, imagine you're trying to bake a cake, right?
Okay, I'm following.
You wouldn't just start randomly throwing ingredients together, would you?
Hopefully not.
Right. You have an end goal in mind. A delicious cake. And to achieve that goal, you need a plan.
Makes sense.
And that plan involves breaking down the task into smaller steps, gathering your ingredients, measuring them out, preheating the oven, mixing everything in the right order. It's all about strategy and forethought.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Well, current AI systems haven't quite mastered that yet. They're amazing at recognizing patterns, like identifying the ingredients for a cake based on a picture. But they struggle with the how-to, the actual planning and reasoning needed to take those ingredients and actually bake the cake.
So they're great at recognizing the what, but not so much the how.
Precisely. And that's a critical distinction.
I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
Good, because it gets even more interesting.
And he used AlphaGo as an example, right?
Yeah.
The AI that took down the world champion Go player.
Exactly. And AlphaGo, it wasn't just about recognizing patterns on the Go board, it was actually planning out its moves, like thinking ahead, strategizing, just like a human player would.
Wow. So like a chess grandmaster, but for Go.
Precisely. And Hassabis believes that this kind of planning ability is going to be key for AI to really tackle those complex, real-world problems.
But didn't he also say that just throwing more computing power at the problem, like building even bigger AIs, might not cut it?
Yeah, that's the really interesting part. He's not saying bigger AIs are useless, not at all, but he is hinting that we might need to fundamentally rethink our approach if we want AI to truly grasp planning and reasoning.
That's a pretty bold statement coming from someone like him, don't you think? I mean, this is Demis Hassabis we're talking about.
It is. It's significant. It tells you that even at the forefront of AI, there's this understanding that we might be hitting some kind of ceiling.
A ceiling in terms
In terms of just relying on bigger models and more data, he's suggesting we might need some breakthroughs in the way we design and train AI itself.
Fascinating. And this is where his focus on scientific discovery comes in, right?
Yeah.
Using AI to unlock new scientific breakthroughs.
Exactly. He sees AI as this incredible tool for accelerating scientific discovery, which could then feed back into even more powerful AI. It's a beautiful cycle.
Totally. And we've seen what he's capable of on that front. I mean, AlphaFold. Hello.
Game changer.
Seriously. For those who haven't heard of it, AlphaFold is this incredible program DeepMind created that can predict protein structures.
And when I say predict, I mean predict with mind-blowing accuracy.
Right. It used to take scientists years, sometimes decades, to figure out the structure of a single protein. AlphaFold can do it in seconds.
It's insane. And this isn't just some abstract scientific achievement either. Proteins are the fundamental building blocks of, well, everything.
They are. They're the little machines that make life happen.
Exactly. And knowing their 3D shapes is essential for understanding how they work, how they interact, how they malfunction. This knowledge is key for drug discovery, for fighting diseases, for basically all of biology.
Okay, so AlphaFold is already revolutionizing huge swaths of science. But didn't Hassabis say he wants to take it even further?
Oh yeah, he's got even bigger dreams. He's talked about eventually using AI to model an entire virtual cell.
An entire cell. Like a digital twin of a living cell.
That's the idea. Can you imagine the possibilities? Being able to study the complexities of life itself in silico at a level of detail we can barely even dream of right now.
It would be like having a virtual microscope that can zoom in to the molecular level of a living, breathing cell.
Exactly. And
Oh.
we could run simulations, test different scenarios, potentially even design new proteins and cellular mechanisms from scratch. It would be a revolution in medicine and biotechnology in our understanding of life itself.
Mind officially blown. But this brings up an interesting point. Back in 2010, when DeepMind was just starting, Hassabis had a real struggle convincing people in the UK to invest.
It's true. They basically had to go beg into U.S. investors for funding.
Isn't that wild? I mean, here you have the UK, birthplace of Alan Turing, the father of computer science, and they're practically turning their noses up at AI.
I know. It just goes to show how much the landscape has shifted.
Totally. Because fast forward to today, and the UK is like, we're all about that AI life. They've really upped their game in the tech scene.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of that can be attributed to DeepMind's success. They showed the world that the UK could compete on a global scale in AI, and that's been a huge boost for the entire tech ecosystem.
It's a real testament to the power of, one company with a bold vision. They can change the game for everyone.
Totally. But it's not just about the tech itself, is it? Hassabis has been very vocal about the importance of developing AI responsibly and ethically.
Absolutely. He's been banging that drum for years.
And that's something we really need to talk about, because it's one thing to have all this incredible power at our fingertips, but it's another thing entirely to use it wisely.
Couldn't agree more.
Wow.
So let's dive into the ethical considerations around AI, because that's a whole other can of worms, right? What are some of the biggest concerns that Hassabis has raised?
Well, for one, he's been a big advocate for international cooperation on AI safety.
So we don't end up with some kind of AI arms race.
Yeah, exactly. It's about ensuring we develop AI in a way that benefits all of humanity, not just a select few.
Right. So international cooperation, that's huge. What else?
He's also been a strong voice for the development of robust safety mechanisms. We need to make sure that as AI systems become more powerful, we have ways to control them to prevent unintended consequences.
Because with great power comes great responsibility, as they say.
Exactly. And that's something Hassabis takes very seriously. He's not naive to the potential risks, but he also hasn't lost his optimism.
He still believes that AI can be a force for good in the world.
Absolutely. But it's a cautious optimism, which I think is the right approach.
Cautious optimism, I like that.
Yeah.
It's about acknowledging the potential pitfalls, but not letting fear paralyze us.
Exactly. And I think that's a good place for us to start as we delve deeper into this complex and rapidly evolving landscape of AI ethics.
Definitely. We've got to strike that balance between pushing the boundaries of what's possible while also being mindful of the potential consequences. It's a tightrope walk, but an essential one.
Couldn't agree more.
So, with all that in mind, let's unpack some of the specific ethical challenges that are on the horizon. This whole conversation is a real eye-opener, isn't it? It's like we're standing on the brink of this technological revolution, but we also have a huge responsibility to make sure it doesn't go off the rails.
It's a balancing act, for sure.
It really makes you think about the human side of it all.
Yeah,
Like, how do we make sure that AI benefits everyone?
absolutely. And that it reflects the full diversity of human experiences and perspectives.
Exactly. We can't just have a handful of tech geniuses calling all the shots.
Right. It's got to be a global conversation. Everyone needs a seat at the table.
Totally. This deep dive has been incredible, by the way. We've covered so much ground, from Project Astra to AlphaFold to the whole ethical maze of AI.
And we've just scratched the surface.
Right. It's both exhilarating and a little terrifying at the same time.
A little bit, yeah. But mostly exhilarating, I'd say.
Definitely exhilarating. But okay, so where do we go from here? What can our listeners do if they, if they want to get involved, learn more, that kind of thing?
Well, first off, don't let that curiosity fade. If something we talked about today sparked your interest, dive in. There's a ton of information out there.
Yeah, do your own deep dive.
Exactly. Read articles, listen to podcasts, follow AI researchers and organizations on social media.
Oh, and don't just passively consume information either. Get engaged.
Yes, 100%. Share your thoughts, ask questions, have those conversations about the future of AI.
Because this isn't just some abstract tech stuff happening in a bubble.
Yeah.
This is about the future we're building together.
Exactly. This is about all of us. And the choices we make today will determine what that future looks like.
Well said. This has been an awesome conversation.
I agree. Always a pleasure chatting with you.
Likewise. And to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to this AI deep dive. Remember, the future of AI is still being written. It's a conversation, a journey we're all on together, so let's keep exploring, keep questioning, keep pushing the boundaries. And until next time, stay curious.